Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jax Miller. Recently, the Minister of Education announced that over 100,000 children have simply dropped off the grid. They've dropped out of school. They're not in any kind of contact with the education system since the COVID-19 pandemic began and online schooling started. So in just a minute, we're going to speak to a teacher who has been seeing this with some of her students. Later on, we speak to some other stakeholders, including the Ministry of Education. And at the end of the program, we continue our All Angles flashback series to a program we did in 2014 when we looked at the murder of transgender teen Dwayne Jones. First, though, Kalisha Williams has this overview.
We have been hearing of the challenges of online classes since the start of the pandemic, from poor internet access in some communities to students unable to afford the required devices.
My son is home during the day with his father, and there's only one device, which is a tablet, and his father uses that as well. And the other thing is the cable. There is no cable around there, no Wi-Fi.
But Education Minister Favour Williams said some students have been completely off the grid.
About 120,000 students who are not engaged. They're not engaged online, they're not watching TV, they're not listening to the radio, they're not opening their books, they're not in contact with their schools. Even those teachers try to find them, they can't find them.
The Education Ministry was hoping its mobile intervention program, which allowed teachers to go into communities and conduct classes twice per week, would have helped. But as COVID cases spiked, the program was suspended.
But as soon as we are able to, we will again, because we know that there are many challenges facing students and parents. We know that not everyone has proper connectivity, and even in cases where they do, they may not have the money for the data plans and so on.
Some educators have since questioned the accuracy of the minister's announcement. Principal of the Yallas High School in St. Thomas, Mark Malava, for instance, said the number of students who have been absent from classes since last year could be as high as 170,000.
From my perspective, I am back down to only being in contact with roughly about 40% of my students.
In places like the United States, the number of students who have been missing from the classroom since the start of the pandemic has been alarming. A recent study by Bellwether Education Partners in Boston, Massachusetts, showed that about 3 million students in the United States have been out of school since the pandemic. But due to limited data, it said the true figure could be significantly higher. Now, here in Jamaica, one suggestion by parents is to have their children repeat their grade when they return to the classroom. But will that work? Or will some students simply fall behind? Kalisha Williams for All Angles.
Thank you so much, Kalisha. And I was saying to my producers, one of the reasons I wanted to do this program is that I can't understand how people aren't alarmed about this. I hear those numbers and I'm scared. Over 120,000 children. And as we said, some educators think it's far higher. We have joining us in this segment of the program, Charlene Lynch, who is a teacher at Wait a Bit Primary School in Trelawney. Now, we spoke to Miss Lynch first about a year ago, in fact, when she was telling us about the problems that some of her students were having in terms of online schooling, the problems the teachers were having. Ms. Lynch, thank you so much for talking to us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I should just say to our viewers, you can WhatsApp us. It's 3810072, 3810072. And you can tweet me at DJ Miller JA, or hashtag is TVJ All Angles. I remember vividly you're saying at the time that you might log into the online classroom and see 5 kids, and the next day another 5 kids, but not the same 5. So the kind of difficulties it was creating. Tell me, what's been your experience in terms of this problem of children dropping out completely?
Well, nothing has changed much where that is concerned. The connectivity remains the biggest issue that teachers face, especially in rural schools. For my school, I can speak of we've had approximately 40% of the cohort online since October, and it has remained constant. So nothing much has changed with regards to how many of our students were able to get online to access classes.
You said
In spite
40%
of the
have been
best effort,
online?
constantly, right? That's the approximate figure from my school.
Okay, so that's 6 out of every 10 children, either not online or just in and out.
In and out or not online.
Wow.
6 of every 10, and that is indeed alarming.
Yeah. And I know at the time you had told us the teachers had been making efforts to reach out to children and their families. Tell me what you hear from them.
It's the same story, Dion. We have been reaching out, and I can speak specifically to that because I have been one of those persons reaching out. I remember I supervised grade 5, and I remember speaking to one of my supervisees, and she has 18 students on a register, but since October, the most she has ever met online was 7 of the 18, and one of the things she faced, the issue is that when she called, after a while, calling the parents made no sense. They by now recognized her number and they had stopped answering. So I took it upon myself to do the calling. And when I spoke to parents, it's the same thing. Teacher, I have 3 children, 2 in high school, 1, and it's only 1 tablet. Teacher, have the money for the data. Teacher, we don't have Wi-Fi, we don't have access, and even if we do, we get kicked out. So it's the same issues over and over. Repeatedly, we try to reach out, we try to find what the issues are, and it's the same story from October.
Okay, so even that some don't have the devices, and even when they have the devices, they're saying they can't get on or stay on.
Right, and since we last spoke, Dion, we have received tablets from the ministry. We had a needs assessment, and the PATH students were granted tablets. So the guidance counselor went about with, trying to find those persons who definitely had a problem getting online because of lack of device. So some of those persons received their tablets. So after that happened, we thought it would have got a little better. However, the connectivity remained an issue, and it did not, even if it improved for a week after that, the following week, it went back to where it was. So it has always been the issue of connectivity that has been in the forefront of everybody's problems in the classroom these days.
So describe for me what a typical class might be like for you then, given the connectivity issues.
I will speak for my class.
Yeah.
Let me, first of all, I must commend my parents. I have 18 students, and I'm not one of the persons I haven't had absenteeism per se. What I've had is dropping off, keep off, not coming on because of connectivity. And the fact is that most of them, they had data or they had Wi-Fi access, but the connection is so bad that they keep getting in and out of class, and that created such an issue for me, because it's not easy when you're doing a concept which is new, and then the students keep dropping off, coming back on. Teacher, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat this? Miss, I'm trying to, and that has been my personal issue, not hearing, getting kicked off, not seeing the work that is uploaded. That has been my issue. But for my colleagues, it's worse than that. It's not seeing them. Recently, we went back to school last couple of weeks, for 2 weeks, and some of the grade 6 teachers, there are 4 grade 6, they were seeing some of the students for the first time since October because of the face-to-face. So they've never met them online. So imagine how those teachers were feeling, because trying to prepare them for the exam and having never met them online, not even on WhatsApp, because we are on Google Meet, but we're trying to facilitate and accommodate our students. So we tried WhatsApp, and even that was an issue for some of these persons. So those are the issues that we have been, that's our reality.
Yeah. Really. And we've spoken to students, and they've expressed to us their extreme frustration you know, how hard it is to grasp the concepts you're trying to teach, and how hard it is to try to concentrate in an online environment generally, and then an online environment where you're always being kicked out, the screen is freezing, everything. So I've heard from the children themselves in terms of their own frustration. What do you think are the implications for this, Ms. Lynch? What do we do? You think we're going to be able to get these kids back in the classroom? Okay, I think we may have lost Ms. Lynch. Same connectivity problem. There we go. So we're just about at the break, so I'm actually just going to go to the break. I'm so sorry we lost Ms. Lynch there, but we were nearly at the break, and we're going to get some more thoughts when we come back. We want your thoughts on this as well. If your child is not in school, message me now. Tell me why. 3810072, 3810072. If you're frustrated with the online system, or if you're a student yourself, please just let us know. Give me your first name, give me a general location, and if you're a student, tell me your age and your grade. All right, we're going to the break. Our hashtag is TVJ. All angles soon come.